Russia has moved nuclear-capable missiles within range of Helsinki. This is not speculation, but confirmed by satellite intelligence. And for Finland, NATO's newest member, the message could not be clearer. No shots have been fired, no cities struck. Yet the symbolism is undeniable. Finland now lives under the shadow of Russia's most destructive weapons, only months after joining the alliance. For Moscow, it is a statement of intent. For Helsinki, it is a warning that neutrality is gone and history has shifted. This is not a minor adjustment of posture. It is a signal that Russia is preparing, calculating, and testing how far it can push. And Finland, far from being passive, is already answering. The question is no longer whether NATO's northern frontier is stable. The question is how quickly the balance of power in Europe is changing, and who will blink first. Finland is not just another small northern state. It shares a 1,300-kilometer border with Russia, the longest of any EU country. That geography has shaped its security decisions for over a century. After World War II, Finland walked a narrow path of neutrality. It avoided joining NATO or the Warsaw Pact. The strategy was simple: keep Moscow calm but remain ready. That meant universal conscription, regular training, and one of Europe's strongest reserve forces. While others cut spending after the Cold War, Finland quietly maintained its defenses. This philosophy of caution, never provoke, always prepare, became central to Finnish identity. It influenced politics, foreign policy, and even daily life. Civil defense shelters still dot Finnish cities, and the public is trained to act in emergencies. As of today, between 60 to 80% of Finland's population can be sheltered underground if needed, a figure unmatched in most Western countries. For generations, survival through preparedness was not paranoia but necessity. Finland became known for its whole-of-society defense model. From stockpiling grain to ensuring fuel reserves, it embedded resilience into the national fabric. The idea was never to win a war alone, but to endure long enough to resist until help arrived. And when Russia's aggression returned, that long memory became Finland's greatest strength. That balance collapsed on February 24, 2022. Russia's invasion of Ukraine showed Finland that neutrality was no shield. Treaties and borders meant nothing if Moscow chose force. Suddenly, the old policy of silence between East and West was no longer cautious but suicidal. Within weeks, public opinion flipped. A majority that once opposed NATO embraced it. Politicians who avoided provoking Moscow now demanded membership. The speed of the shift was extraordinary. Surveys in early 2022 showed support for NATO at barely 25%. By summer, it exceeded 70%. For a nation famous for slow, consensus-driven decision-making, the turnaround was historic. By April 4, 2023, Finland was officially inside NATO. For the first time in history, the Russian border touched the alliance's newest member. The Kremlin, already bogged down in Ukraine, seethed. Moscow first responded with words: unfriendly, a threat to security. But the rhetoric soon gave way to action. Russian forces reinforced the western military district, especially the Kola Peninsula near Finland. Satellite imagery showed deployment of Iskander-M missile systems, mobile weapons with a 500-kilometer range, easily enough to strike Helsinki or key bases. Finland was now inside the crosshairs. Exercises followed. Large-scale Arctic drills included simulated strikes, electronic warfare, and two 22 M3 bombers flying near Finnish airspace. The aim was clear: pressure, intimidation, constant testing of defenses. These flights were not random. They were timed to coincide with NATO exercises, creating a constant reminder that Moscow was watching. Hybrid tactics expanded the campaign. Cyber attacks spiked in early 2024, knocking out government websites and probing the energy grid. Even hospitals reported attempted intrusions into their systems. Disinformation spread online. pushing doubts about NATO and fueling fear of war. Anonymous accounts claimed Finland was being dragged into someone else's conflict, that its neutrality had been betrayed. Investigations traced the activity to Russian-linked networks already active in Ukraine, the Baltics, and even Western elections. These campaigns were not about persuasion alone, but about sowing division between Finns themselves, between Finland and NATO, and between NATO members. Russia was not waiting for provocation. It had already begun a creeping campaign of destabilization, hybrid warfare designed to intimidate without triggering NATO's direct retaliation. For Finland, it was proof that NATO membership brought security guarantees but also immediate exposure as a frontline state. Finland did not flinch. Instead, it responded with speed and discipline. First, it reinforced the eastern frontier. Bases near Lappeenranta, Joensuu, and Imatra were upgraded to handle larger deployments. Air defense was expanded with NASAMS systems and Israel's David Sling, capable of countering modern missile threats. In a region where Iskanders can hit in minutes, layered defense is survival. Second, it doubled down on training. Unlike many Western nations, Finland never ended conscription. Nearly 1 million reservists stand ready and thousands rotate through training each year. In 2025 alone, Finland staged 4 major nationwide drills, including one simulating a full-scale invasion. These are not symbolic exercises, but rehearsals for scenarios the nation has long prepared for. Third, integration with NATO moved at lightning speed. In Nordic Response 2025, Finnish troops trained alongside U.S. Marines, British Special Forces, and Swedish naval units. F-35 jets from Norway and Denmark patrolled Finnish skies. For the first time, NATO achieved continuous radar and missile coverage across the Nordic region, with Finland central to the shield. All of this carried a powerful message. Finland would not be intimidated, and NATO would not hesitate. If Russia tested this border, it would not face a small neighbor alone. It would face 30 nations, nuclear arsenals included. Moscow assumed NATO expansion would fracture the alliance. Instead, it strengthened it. Finland gave NATO geographic depth it lacked. From its territory, the alliance can now monitor Russia's Murmansk region, base of the Northern Fleet and nuclear submarines. NATO's radar reach also extends deeper into Russian airspace than ever before. The shift accelerated when Sweden joined in 2025. Suddenly, the Nordic countries formed a unified front from Iceland to the Baltics. NATO now controls an unbroken defensive chain along Russia's northwest flank. For decades, Moscow operated freely in the Arctic. Now that freedom is sharply limited. The region once offered Russia a sanctuary for submarine patrols and a gateway to the Atlantic. With Finland and Sweden inside NATO, that sanctuary is shrinking fast. Instead of weakening NATO, Russia's aggression has created a stronger northern shield than the alliance ever imagined. It is a strategic blunder that Moscow cannot easily reverse. What comes next is uncertain. Analysts disagree on Russia's intent. Some see the deployments as bluff, intimidation to stall NATO integration. Others believe they are groundwork for future operations. Scenarios vary. Russia could engineer border pressure by pushing migrant flows, as it has elsewhere. It could launch false flag incidents, disguising cyber attacks or drone strikes to test NATO's red lines. Even small provocations could create dangerous escalation spirals. Ukraine hangs over it all. The war, meant to last weeks, drags into years. Casualties mount, equipment dwindles, and society grows weary. For the Kremlin, creating a new enemy in Finland offers propaganda and distraction. It allows Moscow to tell its citizens that Russia is not bogged down, but surrounded, and must fight on. Putin now faces a dilemma: escalate and risk NATO retaliation, or back down and appear weak. Neither option is easy, and both carry enormous risks. The stakes could not be higher. Any strike on Finland would not remain local. Under Article 5 of NATO, an attack on one is an attack on all. That means US forces, German armor, French aircraft, and potentially nuclear deterrence could be drawn in. What begins as a border clash could spiral into a global confrontation. Appeasement is not an option. The West learned that lesson too late in Ukraine. Once Russia senses hesitation, it pushes further. That is why NATO's line around Finland is firm and unambiguous. For Finland, the stakes are nothing less than survival. This is not abstract geopolitics. It is about the lives of its citizens. Generations have prepared for this moment. Civil defense shelters for millions, mandatory service that trains nearly every young man, and a culture that values readiness over complacency. This makes Finland unique within NATO. Unlike some members who downsized after the Cold War, Finland retained a mindset of vigilance. In many ways, it is better prepared for crisis than larger allies. The nation is not a domino waiting to fall. It is a fortress, small in size but formidable in resilience. Yet resilience alone does not remove risk. Even with Finland's preparation, the ultimate choice lies in Moscow. The Kremlin will decide whether the High North remains tense but stable or slips into confrontation. And the consequences of that decision will be felt far beyond Finland's forests and fjords. Finland is not a fragile outpost. It is one of the most prepared nations in Europe. What Russia's missiles reveal is not Finnish weakness, but Russian unease. Aggression has not fractured NATO but hardened it, exposing Russia's northern flank more than ever. Now the Kremlin faces a choice: escalate with provocations or accept NATO at its doorstep. Either path carries heavy risks, not only for Finland, but for Europe as a whole. The missiles are real, the border is tense, and the world is watching, knowing that one miscalculation in the Arctic could ignite consequences far beyond the North.